So, since we're starting at the beginning, I'm going to start at the beginning. So we have some models, miniatures, figures, whatever you want to call them. Before we can paint them, we need to put a foundation on them. Not makeup foundation, but something for the acrylic to stick to. Not only stick to, but give us our blank canvas to paint on. Now, I'm going to use... Now, you can use white paint, or you can use, spray cans. Most people do. That's fine. I have found gesso, which is like a chalky stuff, which artists use to put on to canvases to prep those for acrylic painting. So I'm going to use this stuff because I like it. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but so let's grab some of this. Now you can see it's kind of thick and gloopy. So here is a a body. So if we just use it the way it comes out, I'm going to paint this on. And I'll be honest, I've never painted this on before, so I don't know. So I guess painting it on works. You just gotta... The trick is with this stuff is, well, with all of the paints that I do, is make sure it's an even coat. That's the fight, is an even coat. So that's actually painting it on. If you can't go outside and spray paint something, I guess just painting it on would work. However, I'm not going to paint it on. I've got an airbrush. So, what I need to do, grab me a stir stick. So this consistency is not going to go through an airbrush. Looks like white glue, nearly. But it is, this stuff is really good. It's got like a really ground up chalky texture to it, like talcum powder in there, which is a really nice base. I am going to thin it down with that fluid acrylic medium. That way everything stays suspended in medium. And that is nice and thin. So we can use this to thin it down. There we go, and it's still too thick. So the next thing to use, because it's acrylic, we can thin it with water. Now you don't want to thin it too much, because if you do, it is not going to stick or provide a good covering. So that is about the consistency I want. And we'll see how that goes through. Zoom in here for a little bit. So we'll see how this goes through the gun. Now, if it doesn't go through your gun, basically the thing you got to play with is not getting it on yourself like that. Don't get any on you. Is water, acrylic, and gesso. That, and that is what's in here. So if you play with those to get the right consistency, whether you're going to brush it on, which is, it's not that easy to brush on. When it works, you could paint on that and the paint would stick. But it's hard to get it even. Whereas with an airbrush, that'll go on nice and even, which I'm going to do right now, and then I'll be back. Okay, and here we have finished product. Now I'm going to call him Bert. Went on okay. It's very matte. All the details are there, and they look good. None of them filled in. He's got a hole in his head a little bit, but he had that anyway. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. That's paintable. No, I didn't get rid of these things. I should have before I painted him, but I can do that anyway. Okay, after we've got a foundation on, the next step that I like to do is to put a wash on there. And the reason you do that, it's the same as when you paint it black and then highlight it with white. It's kind of the same thing, but in reverse. So the first thing we're going to mix is a black wash, very faint one, and then that should pick out the details on this model. Alrighty, to make this wash I'm going to use for undercoating and picking out the details before we paint them, you can use inks. Inks are inexpensive. I'll put a link in. You can use inks, and you use this Glaze and Wash Pro Acryl medium. Now, because you probably don't have inks, or you might not have inks yet, you can also use, like I say, the cheap paint. So let's start. Zoom out a little bit. There we go. So let's start with some of this so you can see how fluid this is. A very thin medium, which is what we want. A stirry stick. I'm just going to grab a little bit of dark brown because you want it very, very translucent. So what's going on is, if you have a good medium, when you put that paint in, the pigments in the paint medium and the pigments spread out evenly because it's acrylic medium. It's what it's meant to do. Now I want that a little bit darker, so I am going to use inks, otherwise just a little, very tiny piece of black paint. So it's like, oh, drop of ink, thank you. See how much darker that's made that? That's too much. This is where you gotta be careful. So, I'll be honest with you though, that's still a good color that I'm going to keep working on and keep. So I'm going to put more brown in. Now the more you put in as far as color goes, the thicker it's going to get again. And you want this really translucent like a wash. So if I put more color in, and don't forget, this isn't being wasted. If I make way more than I need, that's why you have the bottles. Get it how you want. You slowly build it up and up, and if you end up with a lot more than you need, put it in a bottle. You don't have to mix it next time. The important part is getting it the way you want it. So I'm going to put some more wash medium in there because I put some more paint in. I'm going to thin this down. Now you don't have to thin it all the way down with medium. You can use water. But we need lots of translucency. And if you just put water in, it's going to clump and not act the way it does when it's in medium. You can only put so much water in there. So there's that. Now I'm going to add my water to thin it. So let's see what this looks like. And this wash medium is actually quite forgiving, so another reason I like it. So you can see this is more like, it also, adding the water has made it more see-through and got rid of some of the black where it went really, really dark. So let's test this. Now, when you're first mixing one, it's always good to have a test guy. This is the guy we used to test the gesso on. So I'm going to grab some of this and just very lightly throw that across. Not bad, but add just that little bit more medium in. This is why it's called Paint Alchemy, and it's also the advantage is mixing the paint the way you want it, not learning to paint the way that the paint tells you to paint. So I think I'm going to call this good for now, because you will see I need a bigger brush. A little bit more water because I added more medium. Another trick is you can kind of test it against the side. Like that. Try and test its, how translucent it is, how it flows. So, big old honking brush. Let's get the dude here. And hopefully my camera will do as it's supposed to. I'm going to paint weirdly from the side. So let's pull. Now, what you're trying to do is to get that to run and pull. And you can do this with different colors. You can do this with black if you want a really harsh. But you see how that's creating a nice effect. I'm just going to slather this over him and let it pull and collect where it's supposed to. And you want to make sure it doesn't collect on where you want highlights to be, so you can just, run over that to get rid of it. This goes on really quick. So if this was, for example, I had 40 of these to do, it wouldn't take very long. See, and then run your brush over to let it get into the folds. And you can control how dark you want the shadows, or even where you want the shadows. So you can put it on really thick and just let it flow. And then take it back up again. So I'm going to let him dry and then we'll come back and take a look at him. Alrighty, and he's all dried up and here he is ready to paint. And again, you can do this all different types of ways. You can make your wash thinner. You can do the wash different color depending on what your overcolors are going to be. Brown is a nice neutral for about everything. Black is good, but it will dull down any bright colors you put on over it. Because the colors that I put on over it are going to be somewhat transparent. That way the brown shines through the transparency of whatever color goes on, and then you get the effect of the shadows, and then you can also ink it again when you're done, which is what I usually tend to do. So we're building up layers and it's quick, which is what I like. And here's the other thing, when you're done mixing, zoom out, there we go. And I got this ready for, I used a minuscule amount of it and I've got a nice bottle of it now to go. I can do quite a few regiments with that, and that's just so, and that can be used for, it's wash, so I can use it underneath the paint and I can use it on top of the paint. So not a bad deal, I don't think. So that's this episode of getting like the foundations down the way I usually do them. The next one I will be putting flesh and basic colors on him. So till the next episode, thanks for watching.
Like and subscribe, or the Inquisition will come pay you a little visit.